Hey guys, this is Lubricating, and today I'm going to be giving a tutorial on how to assemble and lubricate a speed cube. And this particular cube that I'm going to be using for this example is the Feng-Shi Illusion. And I think this is a very nice cube. I just purchased this cube for a friend of mine, and so I'm going to go ahead and get it set up for him, and I figured I'd show you guys how I do it. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. We're going to go and remove the screws, the springs, and the washer. We're just going to get that off to the side because we don't need that right now. And what we're going to start off with is just trying to find all the little pieces and put them together. And with the edge pieces in particular, they have a very nice symmetrical look to it, and so all you gotta do is just line them up symmetrically, put the little pegs inside the holes that they correspond to, and then we need to find a cap. And this is only with the Feng-Shi that I've actually seen the cap needing to be put on, and I think that's a very nice idea. So we're just going to go ahead and just snap that into place, and I think we got it. But one also problem that we have when it comes to assembling these pieces is that there's the occasional manufacturing issue of the pieces molding not getting completely finished. And you can see right there, there's just a little bit of that edge. And what we're going to eventually do is take a knife to that edge and cut that little plastic piece off, just so that we would make sure that it runs smoothly. And now we're going to go find the corner piece. Here is the outer edge of it. And now we need to find a little peg or column, whatever you want to call it. And we're just going to go ahead and fit it inside that hole. As you can see, it fits perfectly. Once we get it there, we're going to go ahead and rotate it. I'm going to show you from this angle. We're going to rotate it where the pegs go inside the other little holes, and then we can push in it. You either push or you pull. I just like to make sure that's very secure, so I'm going to push on it instead. Now we need to find the cap for it. Again, that is the only the Feng-Shi is the only one that I've ever seen actually do that, and I think it's a very nice idea. So we're just going to go ahead and push that in nice and snug, so make sure that there's no gaps in the pieces themselves, and done with that. Next up, we need to find the center pieces, and surprisingly, the centerpiece actually has an extra piece to go with it, and I've never seen something like that before, but I think it's actually kind of cool, and I feel like it does justice, and we'll explain probably more later why. So here we go. We're just going to go ahead and stick it inside the hole, and it'll feel secure, snug. It's not going to have a snapping feel, but it definitely will feel snug. Now I'm going to go ahead and do all these without the camera, just so that we can go ahead and skip forward. And also, just to let you know, there are some corner pieces that don't have a cap on it. Those are just extras. You don't have to worry about them, and just get those off to the side if you ever need them. Here's the core. Looks kind of cool. And we're going to go ahead and just put these two together, just because we're going to need them eventually. And those are our center caps. So, but now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shave off the pieces that I was telling you about, that little manufacturing issue with the molding. And you can see right here, this is the one that we had at the very beginning, and it's just got a little bit of that plastic look to it. So we're going to go ahead and take a knife, and you could take a knife or sandpaper, whatever you want to do. Just with sandpaper, you just got to make sure that you don't overdo it. And a knife, I don't say is the perfect means or method, but I guess just pretty much whatever works for you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to cut it in. I'm either kind of sawing at it, or just putting a lot of force into it. Just be very, very careful not to cut your hand in the process. And I think that looks pretty good. So very clean. It doesn't have any roughness to it. So I've had cubes where I forgot to do that, and it scratched me up. So make sure you do that. Now here is a very, very big and bad example of the manufacturing issues, and it's just a huge chunk of it. So what I'm doing is I'm not putting a lot of pressure, because I don't want to accidentally like cut myself or accidentally cut into my desk. So I'm just playing it very, very smart, very safe, and just kind of getting it all around the angles of the cube. And eventually it's just going to pop off. It's a very small piece of plastic, And there it goes. It's a very small piece of plastic, and you don't have to put a lot of effort into it because it's better to be safe than sorry. So there is the nice corner piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of the Cubies just to get them all out of the way. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start with the lubrication. And we start off with these center pieces just because it's a little just good to do. So zoom in. And what I've got here is I've got a Lubix style Lubix lubrication. And it works very, very well for me. I got the largest one that I could find, and it's done wonders for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, just stick it inside that little hole, just to get it taken care of. Then I'm going to flip it around, and there are 2 rings inside, and you want to try to get the innermost ring as much as possible. Sometimes you may accidentally get on the outside of it just because it is that small. So just be careful. If you have the Lubix version, you do want to try to do that. So if you don't, you can still use other kind of lubricants. Liquid lubrication would be a little bit harder. I know there are some spray kinds that people like to use. If you do that, just be very, very careful with it, just because it can spray and get into your eyes. So you just be careful with that. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to go ahead and just stick it in the innermost ring and just on the bottom edge of that center piece. And I've done 2 of them for you, and I'm going to go ahead and move on from there. Now that they are all done, we go ahead and pull out our spring, screws, and washers. But more specifically, what we're looking for is our washers, because that's what we're going to stick inside the centerpiece. And a lot of people like to put the screw, the spring, and the washer all on the screw and then put it all at once. But the way I like to do this, I like to do it one at a time. And what you want to do is there's 2 sides to a washer, and what you want is the one that has the more scratchy rough edge. One's going to look shinier, and it's going to have a bit of a rougher edge, and the other side's going to be a bit more rounded. So you want to use the shiny edge and stick that inside your whatever you have available, and you want to just kind of slide that in there. One common mistake is to stick it in too tight, as I've done right here, and now the washer won't come off, so you got to come back and loosen it, and it will eventually come off. Then once you have it securely inside, go ahead and get some more lubrication and just kind of put just a little bit right over the washer just to give it an extra little bit of lube. And I'm going to go ahead and do one more example, and there's the shiny side. Whoops. And I'm going to go ahead and stick it on the needle there. You can use whatever you want, just as long as it's small enough to get to the bottom of it. And so I go ahead and stick it right in there, make sure it's there, nice and snug. And then I'm going to go ahead and lubricate it. But I'm going to go ahead and skip this part just so we can move right on to our next area. What I like to do after this is I go ahead and put the springs set in there just to get them out of the way. Make sure that I have them all. You will have extra ones, and you will have some that actually like to get stuck together. It's okay, just go ahead and just pull them out. Try not to put too much force. So very simple process. I'm going to go ahead and skip this. And now we're going to go to the screws. And a lot of people just go ahead and put the screws in. What I like to do is I like to put just a little bit of lubrication on the inside of the head, just so that way it has a little bit of that extra just extra friction that's removed, because there is a little bit of friction there. If you don't do this, you'll kind of hear a little spring sound to it when you're turning it sometimes, especially if you turn it slow. So, but I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit of lube there, and then I'm going to grab it without trying to get any of the lubrication on me, and then I'm just going to go ahead and slide that on. And that's all you gotta do. So no extra effort, just go ahead and put lube on the tip of the head, and then you just set it right on top of the spring, so that makes it a lot nicer. Gonna go ahead and do one more example for you just so you can get an idea of how it works. So I just go ahead and stick it right there, right in the back of it. Got a good amount, and then I go ahead and grab it and stick it in the spring, and there you go. That's it. So moving on, Now I have my screw, my core, and my center pieces all done. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my screwdriver. What I like to do here is I like to grab the screwdriver and not try to screw it onto the core. I like to go ahead and spin the core around the screw, just so that way I feel like I have a little bit more control. Makes it a lot nicer. Now I'm not trying to tighten it extremely hard. I go ahead and I just want to kind of make it where it's decently loose, not too much, but not so much where it can fall off either. And then I take the other side and I make it on the other opposite angle, just so that way I go ahead and get those done. Now, because this process does take a little bit more effort, I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward this for a second. And that way you don't have to watch. Essentially, you just want to do one side and then go to the opposite and then pick another side and go to the opposite. You really don't have to do it that way, but I like to use it just because it's symmetrical and I feel like I get a little bit more angle to it. Now that we've got all this taken care of, we go ahead and just grab one side, just like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my lubrication one more time. And this should be the last part for the internal mechanism of the cube. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick a little dab right there. You can see it right there. You want to stick it on the very top part of the piece. And then what I do is I grab the other side, pull it apart, and then I slowly loosen it where it gets all through the center piece. And gives it a nice feeling. And then from here, so that way I make sure that I know I've done that one, I go ahead and tighten it all the way, just to let myself know that I've gotten it completely done. And it's just very, very nice. The distance is always questionable. Always just try to make it 1 or 2 millimeters. Wow, used 1 or 2 millimeters on that particular side, or the size of a penny if you want to use that as a reference tool. So here I am going to go ahead and do the other side. Always go to the adjacent side, just so that way you know what you've done and what you haven't done. So pull it apart and then slowly loosen it as you continue to spin your cube. Go ahead and stick it in and spin the core around the screw just to give it that nice look, that nice feel, and you feel like you have a lot more control over it. Now again, just because this is a long process, I'm going to go ahead and skip it, and we're going to go ahead and move on to putting the pieces in. So here we go, just stick one edge piece and grab another edge piece and stick it right next to it. And the reason why is so that way we kind of get ourselves a little core foundation, a little block right there set up. And now I'm going to grab a corner piece and just slide it right through there. Fits like a glove, perfect. Now we're going to go to the next one right to the side of it. Go ahead and slide that in. If the pieces are popping out way too quickly or you're having a difficult time, you may need to tighten your screws up a little bit. I've had that happen before where I didn't tighten it enough and my pieces just kept flying everywhere. So tightening the center pieces to the core a lot more will in fact make it a lot better. But here we are going and moving on to the next edge piece, the second layer. And I'm going to go ahead and put all of them in there except for one of them. And we're going to explain why here in a second. But let's just go ahead and start doing the top layer now. Now we've got it slid in. Go ahead and put the corner piece in. Put the next edge piece in. Corner piece. And essentially you're just putting all the pieces in. So now that I've got that side, I'm going to go ahead and leave the other side untouched. I'm not going to put the pieces in just yet. And here's why. I'm going to go ahead and grab an edge piece. And what we want to do is we want to analyze the movements of the edge piece and the corner piece, just so that way we can see where the friction is caused and where we need to put our lubrication when we are going to lube our cube. So I'm going to go ahead and look at it. As you can see, it is pretty much touching every single side of that cube. So I know that if I ever try to put lube on it, which I'm going to in a second, I need to put it on all of that side. So, but what I'm going to do is, right here you can be generous. Don't put it in the hole just because it's going to be useless if you put it there. But just go around the hole and then get back to the middle. and use a good amount where you can see a nice line coming in, and there you go. Make sure you don't go all the way to the very end of it because the lube will come out just a little bit, so you don't want to overdo it. So I put a little bit more there just because there is a lot more friction. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put that face down into the cube right there. So now that part's taken care of, and as I told you, there was a little bit of lube that came out. But now we're going to go ahead and do the same with the corner piece, but maybe not as much just because we've already done quite a bit with our edge piece. So we just go ahead and put it in there. Don't put it inside the hole, and just go right around it. That looks perfect. And you stick this sideways on the top layer. There it is. So now we get to put the rest of the pieces in, and it's nice to do it as quickly as you can just because you don't want that lube to settle in too much. We want to be able to move it around. So stick in the edge piece and we are done. So let's go ahead and zoom out and just go ahead, and pretty much what we're doing now is we're just moving the lube all across the cube just to give it that nice feel. And it is going to feel a little bit rough at first, but then the more you keep doing it, the smoother it's going to become. And with the Feng Shi, some people say you really don't need it. I personally like it better just because it gives it a smoother feel, and it just gives a better appearance and solves overall, so good performance on that. So you just pretty much keep going as much as you want to until you feel like you've got it down. Some people say do it for at least 5 minutes. I'm actually going to be solving this cube pretty shortly after this because I'm going to be putting stickers on, and I'm just going to be solving it just a little bit more when the video is over, just so now I don't have to worry about that. But we're going to go and put the caps in just to give it the complete look. I think I've got the tensions just right on it, so I'm going to go ahead and put all the caps on it. If I need to, I can put it out. It's a little bit more difficult on this one just because it's the caps actually go inside the cube, but I think it's going to be just fine. So now we're going to go ahead and just kind of solve it just a little bit more, and now I think that's pretty much it. So this is with all the stickers, and for those of you who are curious about how to put stickers on, especially for this kind of cube, just go ahead and take a knife and stick a piece of sticker right on top of that, and just lay it right over it. Make sure you get it just right, and that's pretty much it. Make sure that you have it red, white, and blue going in a clockwise direction. Blue is opposite from green, red is opposite from orange, and yellow opposite from white, or white opposite from yellow. So anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps me out. But here is the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.